what Hearts have done this season going to Ibrox for themselves, and this is for the league. Going to Ibrox, going to Parkhead, other teams have obviously taken points off. More so Rangers. Celtic have had a little bit less this season. I really think we're in the middle of a shift, a big mentality shift, and a big barrier that has been in the way of the league for so long, of Rangers and Celtic dominating. That is not to say that Celtic still won't go on to win the league this season. They absolutely very much could do so. But it does start to have that feel about it that something might happen here. They've gone and employed Wilfried Nancy, and I can't really blame the guy, because I can't for the life of me work out like what Celtic have thought they're going to do here with this appointment. Now, I think middle of the season, or where we're at in the season and all that type of stuff, you don't have a ton of options, right? But they seem to have appointed someone that has that kind of philosophy, style, shape that is going to play with that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But are you appointing him to be there for the long term, in which case you're happy to take the short-term pain because he doesn't have the players and he's going to have to get them with what he's wanting to do in play shape and recruit in January and then recruit again in the summer? So, like, are you waiting until then? And if that's the case, that's not going to fly with Celtic. And especially in the current situation that they're in, with how, pissed off the fans are at the board and how everything kind of started off, summer-wise with Brendan Rodgers and everything. Like, I just don't think you're going to get that time at Celtic from the fans. Like, it's going to turn so toxic, like we saw Russell Martin towards the end. Like, it's going to turn that way, I think, if you long-term play this and Hearts go and win the league, which they still might do. So if that's been their thought process, I don't get it. And if not, it's like, you're kind of hanging your hat on the guy coming in and having to hit the ground running. And I think they feel that they're so far ahead of everybody and so superior with how easy it's been, not just in recent times, but through, since I've been alive, with them and Rangers have been the only ones battling it. And I think there's just been a lot of catching ups going on in the game. I think the coaching's got a lot better in the league. I've said that many times. I think the players that they're bringing in, recruitment's got a lot better. The league's starting to catch up with like the data side of stuff and everything like that. And I just think they've been caught off guard and they've been comfortable. And I think that it only takes a window or two or a season or two of just maybe resting on your laurels a little bit and maybe not quite foreseeing where everyone else is behind you. And it's just, it's always about being ahead of the game, whether it's podcasting or football or MMA or boxing or whatever it is. Like, can you stay ahead of the game? Like, something is always coming next behind you. And Scotland has definitely taken a while to kind of progress and get there. But I really do feel as if we're in that place now with the Scottish League. And I've said it all along, if something does happen this season, I think we've seen a little glimpse of it last year with Aberdeen. They fall off a cliff. And Hearts still may fall off a cliff. But if they don't, and I don't know if they will, if they don't, it's only going to have people want to come into the league and invest in the league and invest in teams and use their data stuff and be smarter analysis and pump their money into the other teams, that the league will then grow and Celtic and Rangers have to then adapt to that. And, Rangers are just in a different situation of their recent past, of everything that happened with them, with going down and having to come back and start, and they've never really been able to get hold on where they used to be. It's only been a couple of trophies since they first came back up to the top league since they went down, right? Okay, they've maybe been in title races and stuff, but it's heavily been Celtic, and nothing lasts forever. It doesn't, right? Nothing lasts forever. If you take Germany, you've seen Dortmund do it under Klopp. I know Bayer Leverkusen do it. So, like, and Bayern Munich dominated so much of that. But, like, at some point, it doesn't happen. And people see an avenue and a way ahead. And they get ahead of you. And I just think it's going to be a big shift for the league. I think it really is. I think this is the moment. I think it's an interesting time to be like a football content creator. That sounds cringy saying that, but like someone that wants to do this and talk about football and kind of commentate on it and give the story and the season and the emotion of it all as it unfolds. It's a really, really interesting time to kind of be in this. And yeah, it's massive. I think the shift is here. I think Aberdeen was the first kind of crack in there to get us into this kind of next phase, this next universe of Scottish football, this next evolution, and it's huge. So congrats to St Mirren, massive win, and I think Wilfried Nancy's got a real big job on his hands. It's a very, very difficult first week. And again, I think Matthew said this earlier when we were talking about it watching the game. I mentioned Martin O'Neill, like, could you have just kept him? I know it's not like a sexy thing and it maybe still wouldn't have worked. and maybe he didn't want to do the full thing. And Matthew said, like, oh, but they weren't really playing well, and it was a couple of like last minute winners and equalizers. Yeah, but the mood felt a lot different, and they hunted Hearts down, and the form had picked up, and it was a guy that you wouldn't associate with the modern way of football. Obviously, he's from a different time, a different era, and it seemed like it was working. And yeah, I don't know where the thought process of the appointment has come. And again, I'm all for Nancy given time and putting his coaching style and points onto it. But look, you don't get it at the level that Celtic are at. You just don't, and in the position they're in, you're just not going to get it.